morning has broken.
Morning has broken, and I'm your consecrated host, Father Jeff.
I'm Jonathan.
He's also consecrated. Baptism, holy orders. Here we are, Friday, the end of the week.
16th.
Friday the 16th. We are over the halfway point now. Or we will probably at noon today be over the halfway point. It's a month of 31 days, so 15 and a half days makes the midway. So noon will be the tipping over to the second half of the month.
You know, every month should have just been 30 days. And then we would have had 5 days left over. Nope. I'm not sure what the math is on that.
12 times 30 is 360 days.
Right.
So you would have had...
Okay, so 5
4
extra
and
days.
a quarter days left. 365 and a quarter days left over. Because we got that leap year to work.
Right.
I mean, it's a mess.
But see, so I think, instead of that...
Yes.
We do the 4 days. You just have 4 free days every year. That's just the free days. Every month is 30. Then you have the 4 glorious
free days.
Yeah.
Okay. Just 4 days floating there.
Yeah.
Kind of like...
And they're all together.
So you've got like January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and 4 free days.
Yep.
And then January, February. It's like your transition bubble.
And some days it's 5.
I need a break between 2020 before I get into 2021. Let's pause for a moment and have 4 days of just, whatever.
Reset.
Well, Jonathan, why don't you work on that? Put a petition together.
I can't even get him to stop daylight savings time, so I'm not gonna...
That's coming up.
It is, and it is the worst. With kids...
I suppose.
And everything else, the fact that it gets dark at like 5-ish.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was talking about it with my wife recently.
It's already getting dark in the evenings.
She lived in Chicago for a while. And there, it's the same time zone, but they're about 7 hours, 8 hours east of us.
And north-south too, because of course my good friend lives in Houston, and so he's out, taking a walk, and it's like, oh, it's dark out already, and it's like, I think we still have about 45 minutes before it gets dark. Mm-hmm. So there's just a difference in the way that appears.
So it gets dark so early in some places.
The closer you get to the equator, the more balanced night and day become. So you get a longer... You get closer to 12 hours equal, where, we can be used to 15, 16 hours of daylight, and then it switches, and it's a phenomenon. I know it's one of those things that's now become so whatever, and the way politics is today, are you ever going to fix, and I don't even know if it's better or worse or whatever, with the whole daylight savings time thing. The same thing with pennies and nickels. We need to abolish them. They're useless now. And I think when the United States abolished the half penny was worth more than the nickel is worth today. The half penny was worth more than the nickel is worth today back when it was abolished, and we can't get rid of the penny and the nickel. It's not going to destroy the economy. It's just moving forward.
I agree. And then it doesn't disrupt my kids sleeping.
Pennies and nickels.
Daylight savings.
Oh, okay.
We might be a little crooked. Sorry about that. But
Jonathan.
We're good now.
Cameraman, wake up. Get going. All right. So it is October 16th. We've got 2 saints today, 2 holy women that we will hold up. Saint Hedwig, not the owl from Harry Potter. And Saint Margaret Mary Alacoque. Hedwig was Germanic, Polish, kind of over on that side, and Margaret Mary Alacoque was French. So, what do we know about Hedwig? She was a royal, and she was a very charitable woman. I think she founded hospitals and homes for the sick and the dying, and she would not just found them, but she would herself work at them.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of a big thing, because I think, a lot of times we can satisfy our hearts just by writing a check and think, I've supported that charity. I have done my good work.
Which is a very good thing.
It's a very good thing. However, it's not complete. That she not only built the hospital, supported them, but she invested herself in them. And it's said that she always kind of surrounded herself with 13 of the sick and the poor and whatnot to remind her of Jesus and the 12 disciples. that she just wanted to always have, that she wanted to live in that image. And she recognized that Jesus is most present in those who are most unfortunate in the world standing.
Talk about a way to keep yourself grounded.
Yeah.
If she's of this royalty and
exactly. That's just it. It could be so easy, and we see that so often, that those who have means in the world today find ways easily to separate themselves from the rest of the world. Let's live in gated communities. Let's join exclusive clubs. Let's have the first class experience. All of these separations where we don't have to come in contact with other
private planes.
Yeah, all of these things. That is not my problem.
No. Not mine either.
That is not a problem I have to worry about. But there are some who, So how do we separate ourselves? So Hedwig, she gives us a good sign. Queen, but yet grounded.
I like it.
Margaret Mary Alacoque, you know a little bit about her.
A little bit. Sacred Heart.
She didn't have it.
No.
She saw it.
She saw the Sacred Hearts of Jesus.
Yeah, she was a nun in France, and she had visions of the Lord at a time when, the Enlightenment is happening, and there's all kinds of, poo-pooing of faith, that you don't need your spirit. It's kind of like what we talked about in Screwtape yesterday or the day before, that what's really real isn't all the spiritual stuff, it's just this physical stuff. So put your faith away, put your hope away, get rid of all that.
Did people of the Enlightenment call it themselves the Enlightenment, or did other people call it the
I don't know how that worked. I don't know where the titling of that came.
Because I don't want to be as dumb and as bold to be like, this is the era of the Enlightenment, and I'm a part of it, because I am more enlightened than the last thousands of years of humans. Like, that is so stupid.
Yeah, I don't know if the people who lived in the Dark Ages called it the Dark Ages.
Well,
I don't know.
If you're in the dark, at least you don't realize this.
Or if we're looking back and we that was the Renaissance, the rebirth. That was the, I don't know.
The Enlightenment,
What do we call our times today? I guess we call them postmodern. Postmodernity.
Yeah,
and we're always looking for something else.
But at least it's not thinking that you're smarter than everybody.
Oh, they do.
Well,
the modern age always.
So they're not saying, they're not calling it the Enlightenment.
We are smarter than you. All of you who are watching this many years ago, in the future. I don't know how that works.
We have more access to information.
We do, but that doesn't make you smarter. No. It might make you a smarty pants, but it doesn't necessarily give you wisdom. So Margaret Mary saw these visions of Jesus. He revealed his heart, his love, and wanted her to communicate that to others and say, hey, God is not far away. He's not distant. He's not remote. He's not unconnected to your life. That I am with you. I'm so near to you. I love you. Life is not just about an intellectual pursuit. It's about a personal relationship. And so this is the 1800s maybe, or 1700s, Enlightenment. And this is the great devotions, when a lot of these very personal encounters with Mary and the saints and the Lord happen. Sacred Heart devotions, Eucharistic adorations, Marian apparitions, they all start to surface at this time, because I think humanity really, really needed to know not just the transcendence of God, but also the incarnate presence of God.
Well, there's a disconnect. Sometimes God needs to take extraordinary means.
Sometimes he just steps in, pushes the reset button.
Please, not right now.
Well, we could use a reset.
Or some kind of reset.
All right. Not only is it the end of the week, Jonathan.
It's Flannel Friday! I'm working on that black flannel for you, Roger.
It's also the end of the book.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
It might be. But it is the end of the book as we know it. Letter 31. We've come to the final chapter, the final letter. This is where it's all been going. I think it is a literary masterpiece. The language, the imagery, the evocativeness of it. It's just beautiful. Judgment Day. Kind of, sort of. So if you'll notice, the beginning already is different. Every letter has been, the salutation has been, my dear Wormwood. Today, it is dripping with sarcasm, hate, and yet wrapped in words of love. Mm-hmm. My dear, my very dear Wormwood, my poppet, my Peaksney. Screwtape.
You're going to have way too much fun with this.
I love it. So he's just like, those are very British words, but he's, it's like the little thing that I am, holding on to and making my own. Oh, Wormwood. So he dives right in and disaster from the evil one's perspective. How mistakenly now that all is lost, you come whimpering to me with terms of affection, blah, 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 blah. And he says, well, rest assured, my love for you and your love for me are as like two peas in a pod, that is. I have always desired you as you, pitiful fool, desired me. So, there's an imbalance of power here.
I think so.
That Screwtape has been using Wormwood this whole time. We talk about it in the real world as a grooming sort of thing, where you kind of groom someone to draw them close to you so that you can take advantage of them. I mean, you could also groom someone to, like, replace you in a job or a position or whatever. But there's a nefarious side to this, and this is what Screwtape has been up to this whole time. If and when you go back and read this again, now having the knowledge of how it all ends, you will begin to read it differently and see it differently. That Screwtape is really not concerned at all about Wormwood's success. All Screwtape wants is, just as Wormwood is trying to get this human being, so Screwtape is trying to get Wormwood. And so he's trying to basically draw him in to himself. Wormwood wants to control the mind and actions of this person. Screwtape wants to control the mind and actions of Wormwood. And I guess it leads to a bigger question. Who's behind Screwtape trying to control his mind and actions? It's scary. The dog eat dog world. The demon eat demon world. Yes, I love you. Why, yes. As dainty a morsel as I ever grew fat on. Can we get some fire effects in there, Jonathan? Like a little hellfire? Yeah, dainty morsel. That all I wanted to do was consume you. I just wanted to have you be mine. I wanted to get fat upon you.
And I just wanted your approval and acceptance.
The poor stupid little Wormwood. So what happens? You let a soul slip through your fingers.
Yep.
It seemed like the whole world was ours, but then there was that sudden clearing of his eyes, and all of a sudden the patient saw Wormwood as he really was, like grasped what temptation was and understood that I'm being tempted. And these are wicked thoughts, and that's the evil one speaking to me. Like all of a sudden, for the first time, he recognized what that was, and knew and had in him, and you no longer possessed him. You knew you didn't possess him anymore. Like that's where it was. Like you lost him as soon as he realized it was temptation. Once you know, and then he says this beautiful thing, just as a scab has fallen from a sore, so like all of a sudden, wow, you see what's really there.
Yeah.
You see the wound underneath. You see the thing. So, what happened? What goes on? Well, by hell, it is misery enough to see them, human beings, in their mortal days, taking off their dirtied and uncomfortable clothing and splashing around in a bathwater, giving their little grunts of pleasure. Oh, isn't this wonderful? Stretching their limbs, etc., etc. But what about this final stripping and this complete cleansing? So if you haven't figured it out, the patient has died. The final stripping, the taking off of the body, and the soul stepping out of the mortal flesh.
He's free.
He's free of all... the life was getting a little hellish in the war. That's where we were heading there. So Screwtape then describes this. He describes the process of death. One moment, it seemed all to be our world, the evil one's world. The bombs, the houses were falling, the stink and taste of high explosive on the lips and in the lungs, the feet burning with weariness, the heart cold with horrors, the brain reelings, the legs aching, you could just hear the ringing. You watch those movies and all of a sudden that ringing comes and everything gets all, whatever. And then, in the next moment, it's all gone. It's all gone, like a bad dream. The next moment, all this was gone, never again to be of any account. Defeated, outmaneuvered, fool that you are, Wormwood. Did you mark how naturally, as if he'd been born for it, the earth-born vermin entered into new life? That death is horrible, but there is a beauty in the soul going to where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, just how naturally, as if he'd been born for it. I mean, I think that is, we just talked about a few chapters ago. The only reason we are born is so that we can die, so that we can go to heaven.
We're born for heaven. And unfortunately, because of the original sin, the only door to heaven now is the door of death. Mm-hmm. That the other doors have been closed. The door to paradise has been closed. So the way to get to heaven is through death. Not, of course, by our own hand. It's not something that we cause. But when it comes, there is that great release. And all of this, everything... all of these things that you can imagine, the evil one there, this little tempting devil trying to hold on to this soul, trying to but now the temptations of the world have fallen away.
It's nothing.
The temptations of the body have fallen away. And now when all of that falls away, the only thing that is left is the vision of God and the light that God produces. And this is exactly what happens. As he saw you, so in the moment of death, boom, the soul is separated from the body, and now he spiritually sees the rest of the spiritual world. So he sees you, Wormwood, but as he saw you, he also saw them, with a capital T, them. The angels and the saints. He saw the whole spiritual world of heaven right there at his fingertips. So he saw them. And you, Wormwood, reeled back, dizzy and blinded, more hurt by them than he had been hurt by the bombs. Like, the evil one cannot face goodness.
I don't know what creature it is, a vampire, zombie, whatever, when it hits light and it cowers and just, oh.
Yeah. Or like you, when you come out of a movie theater or a dark room and you step into the bright light. Like when your eyes get so used to the darkness and then you step out into the light immediately, or you flip on the light and you're like, you go blind. Like, even though you're seeing perfectly, your eyes can't process the brightness of that light, and it hurts, and you squint, and it's, whatever, because you've conditioned yourself for something else. So the evil one has conditioned himself to see only in darkness. And then when there's true light in front of him, he can't see it. And it hurts, it's painful, because he's not used to seeing beauty and truth and goodness. It's amazing.
It is.
So this is the cursed thing. The gods, and he puts that in a small g. So we're not talking about the gods of mythology or the gods of whatever. Then when we talk about the gods, we're talking about the spiritual beings. So we're talking about the angels and the saints. That the gods are strange to mortal eyes, and yet they are not strange. Those things that are immortal are strange to mortal eyes, but yet they're not strange. You know, there's a there's a familiarity to them.
Yeah, I think even just if you think of most accounts of people that have had those experiences with quote-unquote angels or other beings, it's usually not like a terror of like, what is this monster? I mean, and I know maybe in biblical terms sometimes it's just like, it's a powerful presence, but it's not just like, Mary did not run away from the angel Gabriel. She listened, and there's a familiarity there.
It is a familiarity because if we are created in the image and likeness of God, even if we've never seen God or heard God, when we do, it is so familiar to us because it resonates with the same beat that's going on in our own heart or our own life, that it is so familiar to us. Like that makes sense. I understand that. I understand. Yeah, I recognize you. And this deep knowledge, when he saw them, so when your patient saw the angels and the saints of heaven, when he saw them, he knew that he had always known them and realized what part each one of them had played at many an hour in his life when he saw himself so alone. That in that moment, all of a sudden, he recognized how his angels, how the saints had helped him out along the journey. It's like that poem, The Footprints in the Sand.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the footprints in the sand that, you know, you walk along the shore and you look back and you see, you know, the hardest part. The 2 sets of footprints in the sand. And then, Lord, at the most difficult points of my life, there's only one set of footprints. Why did you abandon me? And the Lord says to the person, that's not when I abandoned you. That's when I was carrying you. And all of a sudden, boom, the light bulb comes on and you're like cut to the quick. And I know, it does make you weepy. Because it's so true.
It is.
It's so beautiful. So all of a sudden, he didn't ask, you know, who are you? But so it was you all the time. He knew. So not only did he see the angels and the saints in this moment, he saw not only them, but he saw him. God. He saw God. So you can just imagine he's looking around at all of the angels and the saints, and then all of a sudden, in their midst, he just sees the face of God. What is blinding and suffocating fire to you, evil spirit, is now a cool light to him, is clarity itself, and wears the form of a man. Jesus Christ, his humanity, that God appears to be a man. And that, you know, it just causes the evil one to hate all the more. That he would dress himself, that he would become human flesh.
Lowly human.
Exactly. And raise that up to the dignity of the highest power in the world, in the universe, in all that is and bees. So you could interpret the patient's prostration in the presence, his self-abhorrence and utter knowledge of his sins. You could interpret that as, you know, loathing, you know, because that's all the evil one understands is hatred. Like, oh, I hate myself, I can't bear to look at you. But no, that man, that soul now has a clearer knowledge before God of his sins than even Wormwood knew. Because remember that as Screwtape was describing everything, he said, we don't understand how this all is. We just
Right.
know how to twist and move things. So even they don't even really recognize sin as sin because they don't really know what goodness is.
Right.
So if you don't have the positive, you really can't understand the negative.
Because if you could recognize sin for what it was, no one would ever choose it.
Right.
Even these evil spirits, if they could fully recognize it, it wouldn't be appealing.
Because evil is the absence of something. So if you have a donut hole, and I'm not talking about the physical donut hole thing, but the actual empty space of a donut. If you had the empty space of a donut without the donut surrounding it, you would not be able to discern where that donut hole went, where the empty, where it's gone.
Everything's gone.
It's only defined by the thing itself. I mean, we call it a donut hole, for goodness sakes. You can't define it as something without the thing. Evil is nothing compared to goodness. The donut hole is really nothing compared to the donut. If you're going to say, do you want a donut or do you want the empty space in the middle of the donut? Well, unless I'm on a diet, I'm clearly going to want the... even when I'm on a diet, I'm clearly going to want that donut. I want the stuff. I want the good stuff.
Yeah.
Not the empty stuff in the middle. Ooh, donuts. Jonathan.
Yes.
Today is also National Bosses Day, and I am your boss.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my donut? Did you bring me a gift?
My presence is the greatest gift I can give you.
Nope. Try again.
Wow. I have this lovely...
I'm sure it's waiting for me. I'm sure it's waiting for me back at the office.
Yes, it's waiting for you at
There
the
we go.
office.
I can't wait to see what this is. Okay. So, he knows his sins, and then there's this beautiful line. Pains he may still have to encounter, but they embrace those pains. What do you suppose he's talking about there? He's in heaven. He's looking at God.
Any pains. There is no pain in heaven.
Right?
So he can't be in heaven yet. Must be purgatory.
He's clearly not in hell. He let go of the evil one. So he stands before the presence of God, and he recognizes now all of his sinfulness as it really was, and all of his failings, and all of his whatever. So there is now the letting go of all of that, the turning away from all of that, and the moving into the light. And as he moves into that light, it's going to sear away and burn away all of those sins. That will be a painful process, but it is embraced because it is moving more towards the light. And so I'm going to embrace these pains because these are pains of birthing. These are pains of coming to life. These are pains of growth.
Yeah.
These are good things. Better than any earthly pleasure. All of the delights that you could have tempted with now, nothing. They are nothing. Because he finally sees, he is caught up into that world where pain and pleasure take on transfinite values. Greater than limited value. And our math, it's a new math here, is dismayed. That they don't know how to figure this out. The evil one is completely bumfuddled. We're going to use all kinds of Britishisms today.
I don't know many, so you might be on your own.
Well, if Bob's your uncle. All right, so I don't know any either. I probably used that wrong. If only we could find out what he is really up to. See, the evil one is still convinced that there is some plot here, that God is up to something that we can't figure out. And alas, that knowledge, the knowledge of what God is really up to, that's what we need to really achieve power. Which is the ironic thing, because in order to achieve power, God has revealed everything that needs to be known. And that revelation is love. And to have the power of heaven is to open yourself up in self-sacrificial love, and you will have it all. But when you refuse to acknowledge that, no, it must be something else. That's why the Lord says there's no unforgivable sin except the sin of blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, that I don't believe what you have revealed to me. I don't believe it. And when you don't do that, when you close yourself up, God can't get in. The truth can't get in. And so, of course, it's unforgivable. That's why the evil one, Satan, and all the minions of hell, the demons, the devils, cannot be saved because they have closed themselves and refused to see the truth. And it's not possible to save. That's why hell is... That's why hell is hell.
Hell.
Exactly. So we really end here. All that sustains me, Screwtape says, is the conviction that our realism, our rejection in the face of all temptations. So they are tempted to the truth. And all the silly nonsense and claptrap must win in the end. That what this hell must win. It's a false hope. I mean, they are caught on false hope. Meanwhile, I have you to settle with. Most truly do I sign myself, your increasingly and ravenously affectionate uncle, Screwtape.
There goes Wormwood.
Yeah, so Wormwood also has failed and will find himself suffering in a hell of his own making and own choosing. Who do you give yourself to? Ultimately is what you become. So what did you name this one, Jonathan?
You're going to tell me it's not a title again, but it's a quote.
Oh, for the love. Go ahead.
In the end, life contains only one tragedy, not to have been a saint. Leon Bloy.
Who's that?
Some writer. So I got this quote is from a Peter Kraft's book.
Okay.
And it's the last line of a book by Leon Bloy. I'll put the whatever book Leon Bloy's was, and in the end, life contains only one tragedy, not to have been a saint. And it's a lowercase s, so you don't have to be recognized by thousands and millions, but
the terrible vision of God. Terrible in its true sense. I mean, you think about it as horrific, but terrible is really just that blinding, the vision of God that cuts deep. So, Jonathan, that was the Screwtape letters.
That was.
How'd you enjoy that? You've read it before.
Mm-hmm. It's a good reflection. I think it's just...
reflection.
Yeah.
I hope you took notes. I hope you wrote things down or underlined things. I hope that you revisit this sometimes. Maybe a good thing to go through during Lent, and to kind of revisit it and see. Okay, let's examine my conscience. Let's get myself ready for the Paschal Mystery. And so that was a good.
Yeah, because even I found reading through this. It's like, well, whatever happened to him and the girl and everything else, and it doesn't matter.
He died, Jonathan.
I know he died.
He ended up in heaven.
I know, but that's what you would want to know is just like, were they together? What? But those things don't matter because he was pursuing Christ.
Yeah.
And all of it through that relationship is what our relationships are for, is to get closer to heaven.
Absolutely.
The reason we get married is because they are supposed to be your partner in crime to get to heaven. The reason you became a priest is because that was your avenue to get to heaven.
That is our vocation.
Your vocation is how you get to heaven.
Call to holiness.
And so all of those other things don't matter. If it's heaven,
it doesn't lead to heaven.
Heaven is the only thing that matters.
Don't forget that. So next week, Jonathan, what we will do is we're not done with this book yet because I assume that your copy, like most copies, has this little appendix in the back. Screwtape proposes a toast.
Oh, yes.
And so we'll go through that. It's not as good. It's more of a commentary on some of the other stuff going on in Great Britain at the time. But there's a few things. There's a few nuggets in there that we're going to pull out. So we will work through next week. Screwtape proposes a toast, and that brings us almost to the end of October. Because then we have like 1 week after that. So we'll take the week. I think we'll take the 4 days next week to do Screwtape proposes a toast, and then we'll let you know what we're going to do next.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, have a great weekend. Enjoy the fallish weather, and I'm assuming it's going to be
supposed to kick up a little bit tomorrow, so
we'll see.
God's
we'll
having mercy.
see.
Yeah, we'll see. They say, but they don't know anything.
Have a good rest of your day.